Good morning to all of you again. I have several announcements before we move on to today's lesson. The first one being that we already have enough material to give you a test. Therefore, I have scheduled the test for next week. To be more specific, I believe that the date of the test will be October 8th, which is Thursday of next week. So please jot that down. Make sure that you visit my website like you're supposed to. You will find all kind of good things there that include the review for test number 1. So you can get the ball rolling, okay? I have not had an opportunity to visit my inbox this morning, although I was visiting it. I spent a good wealth of time at the inbox yesterday receiving your work and organizing it in the folders where they belong. And some of you already had sent your photography projects yesterday, and I had a chance to see those. If you sent any today, I have not seen them. How was the experience of uh, taking pictures this time? How was it? Can anybody mind telling me what it was like for you? Okay. Oh, interesting. You know what? And if you had fun taking pictures, imagine how much more fun will it be filming. That's a different ball game entirely. And I hope that you enjoy that too, because we're here to make movies, right? That's what this is all about. But we're taking baby steps. We have to begin with pictures, and then we move on to bigger and greater things. But you have taken your initial steps, and I'm very happy that you have enjoyed this part of the process so far. So today is not really a new lesson. We're actually continuing a lesson that we started last week. The title of this lesson is Movers and Shakers, and we define movers and shakers as those people that have moved civilization forward. We have people we've had people like that throughout all of human history, and we've had them in different branches and fields of industry and the sciences and the arts. And we have them with us today. We mentioned a few, and we have had them in cinematography. I've been introducing you to the 12 most influential people in the history of cinematography. We are probably making an injustice to hundreds or maybe thousands of people that have made enormous contributions to cinematography. But this is not what this class is about. If you want to continue exploring this topic on your own, you can feel free to do so. But I just wanted to introduce you to who I believe are the 12 most influential people. You guys met Edward Muybridge, who was the person that is responsible for making the first motion picture titled The Horse in Motion. We also introduced you to someone you most likely already knew, Thomas Alva Edison. You probably know him better as the developer of the incandescent bulb or the light bulb, and probably the phonograph. But he also invented the kinetoscope. In addition to Mr. Edison, we introduced you to George Eastman, who was the founder of Eastman Kodak, that has been synonymous with the film industry for over a century because he was the guy that made celluloid commercially available to the masses. And you know that celluloid is the basis of film. And he was a collaborator of Thomas Edison. We also mentioned W.K. Laurie Dixon. He made Monkey Shines #2, and he also was the guy that built the first film studio in America, in New Jersey. We introduce you also to the Lumiere brothers, Auguste and Louis, who were the developers and inventors of the Cinematograph. And that's where cinematography takes its name from their invention that was a camera and projector that would allow movies to be seen projected against a screen. The way we consume movies today, We also introduce you to my favorite guy here. This is George Méliès. George Méliès, known as the father of special effects. How many of you checked out the video that I told you called The Conjurer? The Conjurer is magnificent. The last person that we mentioned was Edwin S. Porter, and he was a famous director who also happened to be an editor and a cameraman before that. And we said that he is famous because he was the first filmmaker to make use of something known as the close up, which is something that is used in film all the time as a narrative tool. And also, he developed something called continuity editing, which is the way that movies are still edited today and will continue to be edited in the foreseeable future. And we explained what continuity editing was. So, those were the first six influential giants that we presented to you in our last lesson. Let's move on to the final six, and you'll probably know the next few people that we'll be mentioning. Their names will probably be familiar to you. The next person in our list is Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin is considered one of the pivotal stars of the early age of Hollywood. Now we're talking Hollywood here. Hollywood already existed during the career of this British filmmaker. He moved to America. You probably know him better for a popular character that he invented and who he portrayed in his movies, The Little Tramp. You see that guy sitting there in the floor, the guy with the famous toothbrush mustache and the bowler hat and the bamboo cane and the funny way of walking, like a penguin. Let me see if in the next picture you can recognize him better. Have you seen him before? No. Charlie Chaplin. He's one of the, what can I say? Probably the biggest male movie star of the silent era. When I mentioned the silent era, keep in mind that film did not have synchronized sound until the 1930s or late 1920s. And therefore, movies were silent. They only had some music. Imagine seeing a movie that had no sound, and there was probably some background music that came from someone playing a piano in the theater, a live piano. Okay, but it was not that it was recorded either. The movies were silent, and you're going to be seeing silent movies very soon. In the next few weeks, I will be assigning you movies to see that are silent, so you can go through the experience. Has anybody experienced a silent movie? Never. Well, one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to experience two feature films. One is titled Metropolis, and the other one is titled The Man Who Laughs. And those are movies that my students see every year, and the experience is very interesting. Charlie Chaplin was a very famous actor, and he made many, 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 many films. He was a very powerful star. He's the type of star that could do things before that no star can do today, like start making a movie, stop halfway through, and say, you know what, we're going to get rid of all this film, let's start all over again. That just doesn't happen today because of the millions of dollars that are spent in Hollywood. Uh, that's not done. Or start shooting with a guy, with an actor, and then when the movie is done, to say, I don't like the way that this actor portrayed the character. Let's do the movie again with a different actor. That stuff just does not happen today. But with Charlie Chaplin, he was so powerful that he could do things like that, right? He was a perfectionist, and he got away with it, right? He got away with it. His films were usually portraying this character that you see there that was like these characters that are very universal that you see in many countries that are like they're perceived as stupid or dumb, but deep down inside they're smarter than everybody else. Like for example, I can think of Juan Bobo in Puerto Rico. He's not a film character, but he's a famous folkloric character. Um, you've probably seen a Mexican show called El Chavo del Ocho. Anyone? El Chavo del Ocho. But have you ever seen it? It's very popular with kids. Okay, well, Chavo del Ocho, no, he's like not very smart, but at the end of the day, he's smarter than everybody else, even the smart people. Well, same thing happens with this character. Like he's not the sharpest knife in the kitchen, but at the end of the day, he is right. A very endearing, very funny character. Well, that was Charlie Chaplin, the original Hollywood star, female star, was Mary Pickford. At long last, a woman. Mary Pickford was a Canadian actress, and she became the first star of American cinema. She moved to Hollywood, of course, in the silent era, and she was immensely popular in the silent era. She also transitioned as an actress into the era where films had sound, where they movies called talkies. Talkies first arrived to Hollywood in 1928. That was the year when the first film with synchronized sound appeared, and that was a big deal. That movie was called The Jazz Singer, and that was the first time that movies had synchronized dialogue the way we see movies today. But it didn't happen until 1928. And from that moment on, then the silent era ended, and movies had sound, and you could hear the music and a soundtrack, and you could hear the dialogue of the actor the same way we do today. And she transitioned very successfully into that new era of cinema. She even won an Academy Award. She won an Oscar for Best Actress. She was known as America's sweetheart. And later on in her career, she moved from being in front of the camera to being behind the camera. She became a very savvy businesswoman in the film industry, and she was the first female film mogul. We got the first female film executive, and she was a very powerful woman in Hollywood. She even helped found one of the greatest studios of Hollywood, United Artists. The American Film Institute named her the 24th greatest female star of all time. And in this picture, there's a link for you to see one of her performances. I think it was the performance that won her Oscar. And I'm asking you to see this video because you never know, it might appear in the test. Questions about that. Uh, you know this guy? Not now you're saying, so you don't know this guy. You never heard of Walt Disney? Really? What planet do you live in? This was Walt Disney. Walt Disney is not a place. Walt Disney was a person. Okay, and he was a famous businessman, filmmaker. He was a pioneer in animation, and he is mostly remembered today for development of these theme parks that are based on his productions. Right? We have Disneyland in California. We have Disney World in Orlando, Florida, and we have other versions of Disney World in other countries. But he was a giant of the cinema, and he was a giant, particularly in the area of animation. In case you didn't know it, he is probably the man that has won the most Academy Awards in history. When I say Academy Awards, I'm referring to the Oscar. This is given for excellence in filmmaking. This Oscar, we call this Academy Award, is given by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And they are given every year in February, and it has great prestige in the world. And most actors and filmmakers aspire to someday win an Oscar, right? Because it's a great honor. And what was that again? Yes. Well, yeah, they have for different remember, it's for movies, for motion pictures, for singers. You have things such as the Grammy, but these Oscars are given for movies, for film, not film that you see on TV, because TV has its own separate awards. They are called the Emmys, but the Oscars have to do with the film industry, with film, the movie that we see in the theater, and they give awards to different categories, such as acting, such as directing, such as special effects, cinematography, production design, um, music in a movie, and short films and all that. Walt Disney won 48 Academy Awards. I mean, I don't know anybody who was even close to that. And he also won 7 Emmys in his lifetime. The Emmys are the ones that are given for TV show, because you know that Disney did not limit himself to the silver screen in theaters, but also to TV. And he definitely changed cinematography forever. He made the first animated cartoon with synchronized sound. Steamboat Willie, the first appearance of that guy there that you probably don't know. You've never heard of someone called Mickey Mouse, have you? Never heard of Mickey Mouse, right? Of course not. So there you have it. There's a okay. Well, here's if you have Disney Plus, I'm sure you've seen it, but there's a link here in this image in the presentation, so you guys can see a little bit of Steamboat Willie. So you have this first synchronized sound cartoon, which was released in 1928. I remember that I told you that 1928 was the year when we started having movies with synchronized sound for the first time. So this is a milestone in animation for two reasons, of course, for it being a cartoon with sound and for it being the first appearance of Mickey Mouse. And Walt Disney was a perfectionist. He introduced something called the Silly Symphonies, which were the rivals of Looney Tunes from Warner Brothers. And he started making feature films, right? He made like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which is considered to this day the greatest animated movie of all time. Okay, that movie came out in the 1930s, and still to this day, it is considered the greatest. And you've probably seen movies like Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, Bambi. Bambi probably ruined your childhood, right? With the famous mommy scene. You've never seen it. Well, get ready to being disturbed with Bambi, the famous mommy scene. Okay, so the other person that I want to introduce you to is Orson Welles. He was probably the most well-rounded of the bunch that I'm showing here. He was an actor, he was a director, he was a writer, and he was a producer. He worked extensively in theater and radio and in film. And he is the director and protagonist of what the American Film Institute calls the greatest American film of all time. And that is a movie called Citizen Kane. If you ever had the chance to see that film, I would recommend that you see it. It broke a lot of ground in many categories, and many of the things that are done today in film were done for the first time in this movie from 1941. Uh, Orson Welles is also considered one of the 100 greatest actors of all time by the American Film Institute. And he was a celebrated Shakespearean actor. And he was a magician too, like George Méliès, great filmmaker. And I'm going to end the list with this guy who you probably never heard of, Alfred Hitchcock. When you hear about Alfred Hitchcock, you think in suspense and thrillers, maybe horror, because he was a master of using psychology and building suspense in films. His movies were very distinctive, very Hitchcockian, if we can use that word. He had a very, very distinctive style of filmmaking, which many other famous filmmakers have tried to emulate. When you talk about his movies, you think about eccentric characterization, a little bit of comedy, twist ends. You've probably seen some of his movies or heard of him. Movies like The Birds. Anybody? Or probably his most famous film of all, Psycho, that had the famous shower scene, which we study, which is a masterwork in editing, the famous shower scene. So there are posters here of some of his films that include also Vertigo, which is a fantastic thriller from the 1950s. And I think that would round up our 12 most influential people in film history. Guys, I cannot stress the importance of you watching the videos, going to my website and checking out the PowerPoint that are hyperlinked because they are part of the class. And if you're not doing this, you are limiting what this course can do for you. And you cannot not seeing the videos because they are part of the class. Um, yes, yes. Um, you can shoot. You can send it tomorrow. Remember, I extended the time again. I gave you guys 2 extra weeks to send any work, upload any work that you have not uploaded. There are students that I'm gonna have to contact because they uploaded in the wrong place. But I'll be letting you know this week so you can re-upload. There should be no problem because the lessons are gonna be open for uploading until next week. So that should be no problem. But I'm looking into that. And when I am ready, I'll let you know and tell you if you uploaded it in the wrong place. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to ask you to upload it here, okay? But I'll let you know later. If you have not uploaded anything, then I don't know what to tell you, but that you have until next week because lessons have to be uploaded to the correct lesson. So, guys, I'll let you go then. Have a great day, and I'll see you in a couple of days. God bless you.